Multiplication of integers takes place in one of two ways, really. Either we're straight multiplying the integers, so we've got a series of numbers and we're multiplying them together, or we're utilizing the distributive property. So we'll look at a couple of different examples. But to start, we need a little review about what multiplication means in terms of the signs of our numbers. So the rules for multiplication: when two numbers have the same sign, so they're both positive or they're both negative, your result is always a positive number. When two numbers have opposite signs, so we have one of each, one positive and one negative, our result is always negative. So to review, two positives multiply to be a positive, two negatives multiply to be a positive, one of each always gives us a negative. And these rules are the same with division, which we'll talk about in an upcoming lesson later on. So let's look at a couple of examples. So here is a problem where we're multiplying three expressions together. Using both the commutative and associative properties, we can start by multiplying the numbers. Negative 5 times 6 gives us negative 30. Negative 30 times negative 3 gives us a positive 90. Then we simply list the variables, x, y, after the number, and we usually list them alphabetically. So negative 5 times 6x times negative 3y gives us 90xy as our simplified expression. Let's try another one. So we've got three things going on again here. There aren't any letters, but we do notice that we have a set of parentheses with two numbers in them. Just as before, when we have order of operations, we have to follow them. So simplifying what's inside the parentheses first, everything else drops down. 5 take away 5 is 0. And now we have three numbers being multiplied together. Negative 2 times 0 times negative 4. Any way you multiply this, because of the multiplicative property of 0, the answer is 0. So even if you take the two negative numbers, multiply them, get positive 8, what this is telling us is that we have 0 positive 8s. We have 0 8s altogether. We also have 0 negative 2s and we have 0 negative 4s. So the answer is going to be 0. Let's look at something using the distributive property. So the 3 is touching parentheses. Touching means timesing. It's distributing over subtraction. So it tells us we have 3 times x minus 3 times 4. We just keep the sign. The operation sign travels down. And this simplifies to be 3x minus 12. That's as far as this problem can go. These are made of x's. These are made of 1's. They do not combine any further. So our answer is 3x minus 12. If we have more than two things in parentheses, we just keep going in the same way as before. So here we have three items, a trinomial inside parentheses, with a negative 1 outside. So we make 3 lines. This tells us we have negative 1 times x plus negative 1 times 5y plus negative 1 times negative 3z. And we simplify. Negative x plus negative 5y, you could also just write minus 5y, plus negative 1 times negative 3z is a positive 3z. And that's as far as we can go. This is made of x's, made of y's, made of z's, so we cannot combine any further. If you have something with parentheses and brackets, we just work our way inside out following PEMDAS. We can't combine anything in here, so we move outside. This is the distributive property. The negative outside of the brackets just travels down. We have negative 2 times 3x minus 2 times negative 4y. It's important to keep that negative with the 4. Simplify inside those brackets. The negative outside is still outside. This gives us negative 6x plus 8y. And now, this is telling us to distribute. There's an invisible negative 1 here, whether or not we write it. Or you can also just think of this as taking the opposite of the signs inside. The opposite of negative 6x is positive 6x. The opposite of positive 8y is negative 8y. So our result is 6x minus 8y, or 6x plus negative 8y if you prefer. So there's some examples of either straight multiplication, multiplication by 0, or multiplication using the distributive property. The most important thing about these problems is to pay attention to your signs. Don't lose a sign. That kind of screws up the whole problem. So with this, you should be able to get started on some problems.